The offshore rig situation in Landman Season 2 is one of those storylines that feels technical on the surface, but it's actually doing a lot of heavy lifting for the show thematically. It isn't just about drilling, equipment, or logistics, it's about risk, control, and how thin the line really is between survival and collapse for everyone tied to M-Tex. Once you break it down, the offshore rig becomes a symbol for almost everything that's going wrong at once. At its core, the offshore rig situation highlights how far M-Tex has been pushed. Onshore operations are no longer enough to stabilize the company, and that alone should tell you how desperate things have become. Offshore drilling is exponentially more expensive, more dangerous, and more politically sensitive. Companies don't make that move unless they're either chasing a massive payoff or running out of options. In M-Tex's case, it's clearly both. What makes the situation especially tense is that offshore rigs remove margin for error. On land, Tommy can improvise. He can negotiate, stall, apply pressure, or physically show up and strong-arm a solution. Offshore, that kind of control disappears. Everything depends on timing, weather, engineering, and regulatory compliance. One mistake doesn't just cost money, it risks lives, lawsuits, and the company's entire future. That loss of direct control is deeply uncomfortable for someone like Tommy, and Season 2 leans into that discomfort hard. The rig also exposes the cracks in leadership. Tommy insists he can handle both being M-Tex's president and its lead landman, but the offshore situation proves otherwise. Offshore projects require singular focus and unified leadership. Instead, decisions are being delayed, second-guessed, or influenced by outside interests. The rig doesn't care about office politics or ego, it demands precision. Every time Tommy tries to juggle roles, the risk compounds. This is where Galino's shadow becomes unavoidable. Offshore operations are capital-intensive, which means whoever controls the money controls the pace. Galino positioning himself as the financial lifeline gives him leverage that goes far beyond a simple investment. He doesn't need to give orders outright. His influence is embedded in every decision tied to the rig: when to drill, when to pause, when to absorb losses, and when to push through danger. The offshore rig becomes his chessboard, and M-Tex is playing on it whether they like it or not. The situation also reframes Cammie's decisions in a more troubling light. Her willingness to align with Galino starts to look less like pragmatism and more like dependence. Offshore drilling doesn't forgive hesitation, and Cammie believes Galino's resources provide certainty. The problem is that certainty comes at the cost of autonomy. The rig forces her to choose between trusting Tommy's instincts or trusting Galino's money, and Season 2 makes it clear she doesn't fully believe Tommy can manage something this big anymore. From a storytelling standpoint, the offshore rig raises the stakes beyond personal drama. Onshore conflicts can be contained. Offshore failures are public, catastrophic, and impossible to spin. Regulators get involved. Media attention follows. Investors panic. The show uses this to remind the audience that the oil business isn't just ruthless, it's unforgiving. Once you step offshore, you're playing a different game entirely. There's also a human cost baked into the storyline that Landman doesn't shy away from. Offshore rigs are isolated environments where workers rely completely on leadership decisions made miles away. Every corner cut, every rushed timeline, every budget compromise puts real people at risk. The show subtly asks whether M-Tex, in its current state, has the moral authority to operate at that level of danger. It's one thing to gamble with money, it's another to gamble with lives. The rig also mirrors Tommy's internal state. Just like the offshore operation, he's operating under immense pressure, exposed, and one misstep away from disaster. He's exhausted, reactive, and increasingly defensive. The deeper M-Tex goes offshore, the deeper Tommy sinks into a role he may no longer be equipped to handle. The rig doesn't just test the company, it tests his identity. Another key element is how the offshore situation accelerates rivalries. Offshore success would solidify power for whoever claims credit. Offshore failure would create a feeding frenzy. That's why everyone suddenly has an opinion, a contingency plan, and a quiet exit strategy. The rig becomes a pressure cooker for ambition. People aren't just worried about whether it works, they're worried about where they'll land if it doesn't. What makes this storyline effective is that it doesn't resolve cleanly. Offshore drilling isn't a quick fix, and Landman treats it accordingly. Every step forward introduces a new complication. Every solution creates a bigger problem down the line. That slow burn tension is intentional. The rig isn't meant to save M-Tex overnight. It's meant to reveal whether the company deserves to survive at all. Ultimately, the offshore rig situation in Season 2 represents escalation. M-Tex has crossed into territory where mistakes are irreversible and loyalty is conditional. The safety nets are gone. Whether the rig succeeds or fails, it fundamentally changes the power structure of the show. Whoever emerges on the other side will not be the same people who went in. And that's the real point. The offshore rig isn't just an operation, it's a reckoning. For Tommy, for Cammy, for Galino, and for M-Tex itself, Season 2 makes it clear that going offshore means betting everything. The only question left is who's going to pay the price when the water gets rough.